Hi, and welcome to Freshwaves. I'm your host, Bren Masson. Today we're going to be talking with Cassandra Masson about brain tumors. That doesn't sound like a very joyful conversation or topic, but you know what? It's a very, very important topic. People with brain tumors go on to live happy, wonderful lives. Some of them tragically come to an end. But May is the month of brain tumor awareness, and they're having a brain tumor awareness walk in the month of June. So that's why we're bringing the show to you at this time. Good morning, Cassandra. Nice to have you on Fresh Waves. Thanks for joining us.
Hi, how are you?
Great, thanks. And you?
I'm good, thank you.
Terrific. Can we start by you telling us the story of how you came to have a brain tumor?
Oh my gosh, it's a long one, but I'll try to keep it short and simple. So I was actually diagnosed about 4 years ago in July.
How old were you at the time?
I was 21, actually. So it's a very rare age to be diagnosed with my type of brain tumor, which is a stage 2 atypical meningioma. I was up at the cottage, and it was a very hot weekend. It was Canada Day weekend, and I was camping. And then I had to go to Bancroft Hospital, where they informed me that I had heat stroke and to continue taking Advil and Tylenol and to continue hydrating. And I was like, this is just not normal for me.
Yeah, because you weren't really prone to headaches and stuff, so you must have had something triggering you to go to the hospital. That's just not normal for you to wake up with a small headache and say, oh, I should go to the ER. It had to be something pretty major.
I was having pounding headaches. Like, this was just not a normal headache for me. And I was not prone to headaches ever before. And this was just a headache I've never experienced before, like blurred vision, intense pain where I couldn't sleep. I was crying consistently. And I was like, this was just not normal. I had to get my dad to drive me to the hospital because I just could not drive for the sake of me. And I was waiting in the waiting room, and I was in so much pain. I just couldn't even sit still. And I was probably with the doctor for about 5 minutes before he dismissed me.
Wow.
And I was an absolute wreck going back to the cottage because I was like, how could he not take me seriously when I'm in this much pain?
Well, first of all, you were 21. Secondly, it's one of the big party weekends of the year, and they see so many drunk kids or kids that are really like alcohol poisoning and stuff like that. So you can understand how he was looking for horses and not zebras at that particular time. Plus, remember that weekend? I remember it. It was so hot, unusually hot for the beginning of July.
It was brutal how hot it was. I remember I was trying to stay hydrated the entire weekend. So I was like, this just doesn't make sense how it could be heat stroke. I was drinking Gatorade. I was chugging back water. Just like my mom works in healthcare, so she was talking to the nurses that she knows, and I was doing everything they were telling me. And I was like, nothing is relieving this headache. So I had to go home to go to the hospital that she works at. And thankfully, I had a house in Peterborough at the time where I was going to school. And I had to make a pit stop on the way home just to take a breather because I could not make it home driving consistently.
Wow. So you were driving yourself?
Yeah, because at the time my dad couldn't drive the whole 2.5 hours to take me home, and it was just too much for my mom to come up and grab me and drive me home because then my car would be up at the cottage, and it was just a lot of driving and cars everywhere.
Right.
So I was like white knuckle to the steering wheel, and I had to take a break in Peterborough. And then finally I made it home, and I was in the hospital, and they put me on Teradol, which is the beginning pain medication that they put you on. And then that
is that kind of pain medication for migraines, or is it?
It's the beginning pain medication when you go into the hospital for pain, like extreme pain.
Okay.
And then they move you up to morphine. And the Teradol did nothing for me. And
Wow.
then they put me onto morphine and Gravol, and I finally was getting some rest. So I finally got some relief and was able to sleep for the first time in 4 days.
Wow.
And then they asked me, all my blood work came back fine and everything like that. So they were just like, okay, like, that's when they came back to me and they said, do you want to get a CT on your head? And I looked at my mom and I was like, this seems kind of serious now. Is that something I should do? And the doctor said, this is something I recommend. And I said, okay, if that's what you recommend, I'll do it. And I just remember everything was such a blur because you're on so many medications at that time. Everything is just pretty blurry when you're on morphine and Gravol at that point. And I just remember going to get the CT head, and then she was like, oh, could you wait back for a second? We're going to do another one with contrast. And then I could tell my mom was starting to get more worried. But I was on so many drugs at that point, I was just kind of higher than a kite. So nothing was really bothering me. And then they escorted me to acute after I got the second CT head. And my mom was getting emotional, and I just had a feeling that something wasn't right. And then after a bit, the doctor came in and said, unfortunately, I don't have the best news for you. And that's when I was told that I had a brain tumor and was just criticaled out to St. Mike's.
Wow.
It was a very emotional day for everyone involved. And I just remember it so clearly. Well, not clearly, but it was my best friend's birthday. And I just kept on texting her, I'll be there soon. I'll be there soon. Because I didn't want her to think that I was missing her birthday.
Right.
And
that's typical of you, though. That's your personality. You've got balls in the air. You're juggling things around. You love your friends. You have terrific friends, I must say. And
yes.
I guess for the listeners who are kind of confused as to, I'm interviewing this person and how do I know so much about them? Cassandra's my niece. So this is how I know a little bit about Cassandra. And while you were getting critical, you call it critical, it just means that you're in an ambulance and you're going down to St. Mike's. Your mom was on the phone to me and I was at the cottage and she said, you've got to come home and you got to get your brother, who's your dad. Cassandra's got a brain tumor and she's going down to St. Mike's. We don't know anything more than that yet. And so, okay, you're in an ambulance. Was that the first time in your life you've been in an ambulance ride?
Yes, it was very exciting.
Was it? I've always wondered what it would be like. You know, you're lying there and you see the world going by, or can you see out the windows, or are there windows?
There's like a little tiny window where you can just see the traffic behind you. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is such a surreal moment. And then the paramedic and the nurse beside me were just talking casually. And I was like, do they not realize that I'm like freaking out inside right now? Like, they're so casual. And I'm like, not on my phone. I'm freaking out inside, having like an internal crisis right now. And it was just kind of a surreal feeling at that point.
Yeah, I can imagine. So you get down to St. Mike's and you were in Emerge, and you were in Emerge for quite some time. Welcome to the Ontario medical system, and I'll get that little jab in now while I can. I know that you were treated extremely well, but boy, the length of time that people spend in Emerge in this country is pitiful. It really is.
Yeah.
Anyway, St. Mike's is a busy place, and you went into Emerge, and did they do more tests while you were in Emerge, or were they waiting for a spot?
So I had a full body CT and a full body MRI just to make sure it wasn't a met that was my brain tumor, so that it wasn't a metastasis that had spread throughout my body. Mm-hmm. And then I didn't meet my neurosurgeon that night. I met with a fellow. And so someone that works alongside my neurosurgeon, and she assured me that everything was going to be okay, that it was just a minor brain tumor, that I was going to go back to work in 6 weeks. And it was such a reassuring conversation that I felt comforted.
Mm-hmm.
And that definitely was not the case, as you know.
Mm-hmm.
And I kind of have some animosity towards her.
Later.
Of course I don't hold, yeah, of course I don't hold on to that, but it was definitely eye-opening to how someone could lead you in the wrong direction so early on in your journey.
Yeah, because it almost trivializes the urgency of the situation. Yeah, you're going to be fine. You'll be back at work in 6 weeks. It's not a problem. It makes it sound like it's a pimple on your arm, you know?
Exactly, when it definitely is not.
No, it is not. Okay, so when I got down there at 2:00 in the morning to St. Mike's, you were fried. I mean, you were just so exhausted. You'd have people coming in and talking to you and conversations happening out in the hall. I mean, I just got the impression that you were really fed up. Like it was just a lot in one day.
Yeah, it was definitely overwhelming. And at that point, I just wanted to go home and sleep.
Yeah, I don't blame you. And actually, that's what happened. You got to go home.
I did get to go home, and then I had the surgery 3 days later.
I was surprised that
later.
I was surprised that they let you go home. But in hindsight, that was a nice little break.
It was.
Because I know
it was very nice.
You got to see all of your friends and family came over, and everybody was seeing you in an environment that wasn't institutionalized. It was at home in your backyard.
Exactly. I got to explain the situation in the comfort of my own home.
How did it feel knowing that in 3 days you were going to have brain surgery? I mean, it's something as a family we've always joked about. Well, you don't have to be a brain surgeon to do that. And then here you were about to have brain surgery. How did it feel?
When I was talking to people, it kind of just felt like a dream. So they were a lot more emotional than I was, because I think I was trying to be so strong. I was more so telling them as this is like objective, this is what's going to happen. And then they were getting emotional. And I was more just kind of stunned that it was still happening to me at such a young age and at such a peak point in my life. And I was just kind of numb to everything. I think that's a good word to use. I was kind of numb to everything. And I was more so, I would leave my emotions to when I was alone.
Okay. That's a very brave and teenage thing to do, even though you're a young adult. I think people are teenagers till they're 26, but that's just me. So when you were alone, was that a time when you felt like you could somehow begin to process it, or was it a time when you just allowed yourself to be as afraid as you actually were?
I feel like it was a time I would allow myself to be afraid. I wouldn't want my friends to see, and especially my family to see, that I was actually afraid.
Your mom is a strong and brave woman, but that would be a lot for any mother.
Exactly. And I know the word burden is a huge word, but I wouldn't want to put that on anyone else, because I know it was a very stressful time for everyone.
And it's ironic that your mother was probably feeling the same way.
Exactly.
So the mother and the daughter go to opposite corners where they're both privately allowing themselves to be as afraid as they actually are. But in front of each other, they're putting on the brave face and smiling and, yeah, everything's going to be great. What can I get you to eat? Would you like an egg?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so the big day, you went down to the hospital early in the morning, I remember.
Yes, 5 a.m. I had to be there. I felt like I was going on vacation, but just not a happy one when you had to be at like the airport early. My surgery was quite early in the morning. I was one of the first ones to go in.
Okay, so tell us how it felt getting ready for that.
I actually wasn't very, again, I was trying to internalize everything. I didn't want to show people that I was nervous. I very much had a wall up and tried to not show that I was very much nervous to go into the operating room. But definitely as you're getting ready, as you're putting on your gown, as you're putting on those little booties that the hospital gives you and everything like that, I just remember my neurosurgeon came up to me and he goes, "Everything will be okay. We'll take you to the operating room soon." I just remember everything felt so surreal that you still can't process everything because everything's going so quickly. And it only really hit me when I entered the operating room. And that's when I started to kind of freak out. And they put this oxygen mask on you and then they all start asking you questions to try to keep you calm, but it's almost overwhelming. So I kept on trying to take off the oxygen mask to answer them, and they're like, "Keep it on." And I'm like, "Wait, I'm trying to answer your questions." And then they're asking you about your job and what you like to do as your hobbies. And I kept on trying to take off the oxygen mask to answer their questions. And they're like, "Keep it on." And I'm like, and then everyone's poking and prodding you at different areas. And I'm like, "Oh my gosh, this is so stressful." And then I just remember them starting to count down from 10. And I think I made it to 8. And then you just feel this sharp pain go through your body and into your lungs. And then I was asleep.
Yeah. It's not like it is in the movies, is it?
No, it's very stressful once you get into the operating room. The movies make it seem like it's such a breeze and that no one's like freaking you out.
Yep. I think that's one of the downsides of many of these medical shows is that they don't, first of all, they don't ever show the recovery, which is often way harder than the surgery. You're asleep for the surgery. People wake up and they're all smiling and, "Hi, oh yeah, everything went really well. Yes, I'm great and I'm going to be fine." Shoots to another scene. And when they're going to go under, all you see is the counting back from 100, 5, 4, or whatever, And then all of a sudden it's this peaceful, lovely thing. And they don't go into the details of the stress and the turmoil before the operation begins. Anyway, you're a brave, brave girl, Cassandra, braver than I could ever think of. I think I would have probably had a heart attack just waiting for the whole thing to happen.
Thank you.
So what you don't know is that we all waited outside in the waiting room for hours. None of us could dare to leave for a second. We knew that the surgeon, after the surgery, was going to come out and say hello to us, give us the results of what had happened. And if you miss him, you miss him. So none of us wanted to miss him.
Yeah.
And the camaraderie was incredible. We sat together. I felt sorry for the people who were there by themselves waiting for a loved one because we were a group of probably 8 to 10.
Yeah.
Nobody left even to go to the bathroom without telling everyone where they were going and when they would be back. We just, we bonded. I think I bonded with your grandmother more that day than I've met her many times throughout the years, but that day was a special day. It was a really special day. And all of us were rooting for you and praying for you. And when Dr. Spears, I think is his name?
Yes, Dr. Spears.
When he came out, we all went running over. Your mother looked like she was about to pass out. She was excited and, he smiled and we all kind of held our breath, and then he said, good news, we got it all and everything is great. She's doing really well. She's in recovery and you'll get to see her soon. And we did a football cheer. We honestly did a football cheer, and then had to really stomp it down because 2 seats away was a family whose son didn't have his surgery because his tumor was so massive when they opened up his skull that they just closed him back up and there was no hope. And he was the same age as you. So our victory dance, we just had to clamp it down because there were others in the same space that didn't have a victory dance to do. And we had to be respectful of that. It was a horrid situation, but we were so thankful that you were okay, or as okay as a person who just had their brain cut open could possibly be.
Yes.
Now, at this point, we have to take a break because we're going to take a little break at the station here, and we'll pay some bills and we'll be right back. You're listening to Freshwaves. This morning we're speaking with Cassandra Masson. She's a brain tumor survivor. And I'm your host, Bren Masson. We'll be back on Freshwaves in just a second, so stay tuned. Hi, this is Bren. Thank you for tuning in today. We're very fortunate on Freshwaves to be able to bring you such a great inspirational story. Cassandra is a wonderful young woman. The Brain Tumor Foundation of Canada is the only national charity offering information and support to patients affected by any kind of brain tumor, be it cancerous or non-cancerous. The organization funds groundbreaking research across North America, and since 1982 has dedicated over $8.9 million to finding a cure and improving treatment for brain tumor survivors. The Brain Tumor Foundation of Canada is funded solely through the generous contributions from individuals, corporations, organizations, employee groups, and special events. If you'd like more information, you can go to braintumor.ca. Some quick facts. Each day in Canada, 27 people will hear the words, "You have a brain tumor." An estimated 55,000 Canadians currently live with a brain tumor. Brain tumors are unpredictable and complex. They can affect vision, hearing, memory, balance, and mobility. Their effects are physical, emotional, financial, and last a lifetime. We're going to hear more of Cassandra's story in just a moment, but I thought for any of you that are interested, there will be the Brain Tumor Walk, and it's taking place on the weekend of June 17th to 19th. Now, this is a nationwide event, and there will be walks all over Canada in many different communities. So you can go to braintumor.ca and look up your community and see where there's a walk nearest to you. I'll be walking with Cassandra in downtown Toronto because that's the group that she's associated with, and we will do what we can to support her. And people, friends and family who cannot attend the walk can show their support by donating to Brain Tumor Foundation of Canada. Let's get back to the show, and we'll hear more about Cassandra's journey with brain tumor. We're back on Fresh Waves. I'm your host, Bren Masson. Today we're speaking with Cassandra Masson. She's a brain tumor survivor and all-around good gal. I super love talking to Cassandra, whether it's at family gatherings or just over on the airwaves here at Fresh Waves. Cassandra, thank you so much for sharing your story with us. I know that it can't be an easy story to share, and one that you don't probably like to go back and harp on too much. When we left for our break, you were at the point where we were doing the victory dance out in the waiting room because we knew that you had come through the surgery in flying colors. And you are just about to wake up. Tell us what happened next.
So when I woke up, there was actually some issues. They realized that I was, in fact, paralyzed on the right side of my body due to complications in the surgery. and they had to rush me to CT to make sure that I didn't have a stroke during surgery.
I will tell you, at this point, we were told in the waiting room, oh yeah, this is standard. Yeah, it's no big deal. We're a little curious about it. We'll keep an eye on it, but this is, pretty normal for after surgery, and if there's any paralysis like this, it'll go away, and we don't expect anything to come of it. No, everything is fine. Just so you know.
It was pretty severe. There is a medical term for it, but I'm not too sure what it is. They told me a while ago. So I ended up having to go up to ICU, and then I spent 3 days in ICU, and then 2 weeks at St. Mike's, and then a month and a half in a rehab facility learning how to walk again.
Okay. So I can honestly say a big thank you to the people at St. Mike's, because that ICU team was incredible.
They were
stellar,
incredible. They were amazing.
Yep. Really, really top-notch professionals. I mean, I was so impressed. Now, you had lost some of your hair. They had to shave your hair to do this.
They did.
And you were not very happy about that.
No, I was not.
But, all in all, it's pretty minor. But at the time, I think it's the one thing that you latched onto, and you were pretty upset about it.
Yes. I love my hair.
You have beautiful hair.
Thank you.
So you stayed at St. Mike's for a couple of weeks, then you went to rehab. So you gained back a lot of mobility. I know your arm was moving and things like that. So why did you have to go to rehab?
Because of my leg. I couldn't walk.
And so they just kind of tried to get you moving that side and...
Yes. So I was in a wheelchair for a while. I had to go to physio every day. Then I slowly moved up to a walker, and then I slowly moved up to a cane. I had to do exercise every day just to gain back strength. I was in the pool. It was just a lot of intense rehabilitation every day just to try to gain back the strength in my leg. Mm-hmm. And then they one day came back and they said I might not be able to walk again just because my foot wasn't coming back as fast as they had hoped.
So what do you mean by that? The foot was just sort of hanging there, wasn't it?
Yeah. So they tried to use this machine called I forget the medical term. It pretty much, they attach it to your leg, and then it sends electrical impulses into your leg, and then it tries to move your foot for you, and then it aids you in your walking. Oh my gosh, it hurts so much, but that's the only thing that helped me start to regain my foot.
Did you feel like you just didn't have any control over that foot? Is that how it felt?
Yes.
It was just
I felt like
down
it
there.
wasn't a part of my body.
Yeah, it was just doing its own thing.
Yeah. It was doing its own thing for sure.
Okay, now the foot started having little tremors, didn't it?
Yes. So I had tremors in my foot for 2 weeks straight. And they tried acupuncture, they tried benzos, they tried everything to stop it, but eventually it just went away on its own. But that's when I started having seizures. And I've had seizures for 4 years, but I'm finally 6 months seizure-free this June.
Wow, yay, congratulations. I'm really happy for you because this has been a long journey. Now, when you first started the seizures, it was more like a just in your foot, wasn't it? And then it
Yeah.
started to move around. So what would happen?
First off, it just was in my leg. So it's called a Jacksonian March motor seizure. So it just is like your leg is shaking, but it's quite painful because you don't lose consciousness. So you feel everything. And then it slowly started to move up into my whole right side of my body. And that was also extremely painful. So I dealt with those for 4 years. But now I am 6 months seizure free. So that's exciting.
Now, this journey was like medications and then juggling the medications, and then it would work for a month and then it would stop working. And then you were having larger seizures that would really like be almost like a whole body episode, right?
Yeah. So it was a lot of juggling medication, but I have the best neurologist who has been so helpful and has not stopped in helping me juggle medications and changing medications and going through the motions with me, and has not quit in helping me figure out how to stop my seizures. So he has been amazing, and my team.
Terrific. So, what is your prognosis? What do they tell you now? Did they get the whole tumor?
No. So unfortunately, my tumor is attached to my superior sagittal sinus. So that is one of your main arteries in your brain. So they will not be able to ever remove that. But I do have titanium mesh that is supposed to help stop growth. And so my tumor, since it is a stage 2, it is likely to grow. But hopefully, fingers crossed, it won't grow.
Has it grown in the last 4 years?
No. So right now it is stable.
Yay.
And my next MRI is in November. So fingers crossed.
Yeah, fingers crossed. I guess you're going to have to live with this. That's a pretty serious thing to live with, isn't it?
Yes, but I always stay hopeful.
Yeah, for sure. You have to. That's the only way you can, especially at your age. I mean, your body is so young and so strong. So, what do you do now? I mean, I know that coming up in June is the Brain Tumor Walk to raise awareness and to raise funds for brain tumor research. What are your next steps? You're going to go on the walk. I know that.
Yes.
Because we walked with you post-COVID, pre-COVID, I mean. Pre-COVID, we went on the walk, and it was a lovely walk through downtown Toronto. And we were just so happy because at the time, it was just after you were able to walk without a walker and cane and such. So you actually did the loop twice. It was amazing.
Yeah, that was really big steps for me, which was very exciting. That was a huge accomplishment for me.
Yeah, and then after that, you actually started walking as a form of exercise. It was really amazing to see.
Yeah, so that was a real big improvement for me. I still have to get Botox in my leg every once in a while. So the Botox helps with spasticity, so my muscles don't become tight, because that's like a whole brain thing that I have to deal with now. So my brain sends messages to my leg to tighten up my muscles when I don't want it to.
Brains are pesky things, aren't they?
Yeah, they really are. So the Botox helps keep my muscles loose. So that really helped with my walking. So I'll have to continue to do that. But yeah, my walking is good for now with the Botox. So
that's great.
That's really helpful.
Now, do you have a history of brain tumors in your family?
So there is one person on my maternal side who had a brain tumor, my mom's uncle. but it is not the same type of brain tumor. So there's no direct link.
Right. And is your kind of tumor typical in someone your age?
No, it is very rare.
Yeah. It's what a journey. What a
journey.
So, as a result of this tumor, were you able to finish university?
So I had to graduate with a 3-year instead of my 4-year as I planned to. But I do have a job in the hospital system, which I thoroughly enjoy now that I get to interact with patients. It really gives me a lot of comfort knowing that I'm able to comfort them through their journey in the hospital.
Mm-hmm.
Because when they come in, obviously they're dealing with their issues, and I'm one of the first people that they see when they come into the ER or when I see them up on the unit. So it just means a lot to me that I'm able to give back, knowing that I went through a similar experience in the hospital.
And what better person to give back than someone who's been in that bed and knows what it feels like?
Yeah. So I just try to make them their experience as welcoming and as good as possible.
Well, they're lucky to have you.
Thank you.
Now, when previous to the brain tumor, I could probably come up with an acronym for that. Previous to the brain tumor, what were your life ambitions and goals? You were going to school, and what did you plan on being?
So I really had no set plan, as most people in university do, I believe. I don't think I'm the only one. But I was taking political science with an emphasis in international affairs. And I really wanted to go into law. And I actually did have an interest in medical policies. So there's always been an interest in the medical field. But now I think that I've been through this health issue, I think my interest in the medical field has been exasperated. So I think my life journey has been and will be devoted to the medical field.
Do you think you'll end up going back to school to do something in that area?
I think so.
Good. I'm so proud of the woman that you have become. You had to grow up really quickly, and it wasn't easy. And it's not going to be easy, is it? You're still going to have different struggles, and as we said at the beginning of the show, people see these things on TV and think that it's all a bed of roses, but you've been in recovery now for 4 years. That's a long time.
It is a long time, but I feel like I'm now starting to finally figure out my life path and where I want to go and where I see my future, and things are finally starting to work itself out. So I'm very happy about that. And
you get your driver's license back soon.
I do. A huge sense of independence is back.
Wow, that must feel great just in itself. It must feel fantastic.
It really does.
Oh, I'm so happy for you. I know that it's been a long journey, but you know, you've done a really good job. Now, you aren't the only one. That's the sad thing, isn't it?
It really is. It really is.
And in terms of what we've seen, you and I, through research and from, meeting the people downtown at the walk a few years ago, you've had a good outcome compared to others.
I was very lucky to have the support system that I do, because I don't feel like a lot of people do have the friends and family and the support that I did.
Mm-hmm. It's important, isn't it? That sense of community.
It very much is, because I think it helps you through your journey.
And it's kind of inspiring. It's not kind of. It is inspiring to see someone like you who is so positive and so full of life and wants to get back as much of life as you possibly can. And others who've had brain tumors are not so fortunate. Their outcomes are not as good as yours. And I guess that's what the Brain Tumor Walk is all about, so that people can see that there are people like you who will recover when the research is there and the efforts from the neurologists and doctors are there, you know?
Exactly.
And there's a long way to go in terms of brain cancer. Some brain tumors are, I said cancer, but I meant that some brain tumors are not cancerous.
Exactly.
Some are benign.
And there's some that are inoperable, and that's something that should be looked into and more research should be put into.
So where do you see yourself going in the healthcare system? Do you want to be in a role where you're actually working with people, or do you see yourself more on the administration side?
Admin side.
Yeah. Making the policies and making the pathways, I guess, for those in the system.
Yeah. I want to be able to carve out the pathways to be able to create better policies for people to have more access to healthcare.
Great. And on the walk that's coming up, will you be walking it this year?
Yes.
I bet I'll see you there every year from now on.
Yes.
And so if people are interested in finding out of either how they can help or how they can donate to brain tumor awareness, how do they go about doing that?
They can go to the Brain Tumor Foundation website. I think it's just braintumorfoundation.ca. And there is a whole bunch of information and ways to donate and just ways to help out on the website.
So people, when they give to this program, it's to help with research.
Yes, but there's also other things that they use the money towards. They use it towards funding projects for us and being able to take young people on trips and to have group meetings and support groups and a whole bunch of other things for brain tumor survivors. So it's not just for research. So it is very beneficial for brain tumor survivors for the donations that we get.
Did you ever do one of those support groups?
Yep, I'm in one actually. I haven't done it during COVID just because it's online and I don't find it as beneficial as being face-to-face with my other support group friends, but I will be returning once we go back in person.
So in what kinds of ways do you support each other?
We mostly just listen to each other and our issues, and we vent to each other, and we support each other through different advice and how we deal with different issues. And it's just a whole bunch of different ways to help each other. It's actually it's a very supportive environment.
Are they mostly people your age?
Unfortunately, no. But there is a support group online on Facebook that is made for people my age.
But your group that you belong to has all ages, or would you say that you're the youngest one there?
I am the youngest one there.
Yeah. One of those cases where being the youngest is not necessarily a good thing.
No, definitely not.
So it's always good to have a support group. It's always good to have a community of people that can relate to what you're going through. And then, of course, the support of your family and your friends. And like we've already said, your friends are stellar. You really do have a really great group of friends.
Yes.
And how did they treat you when you were going through the seizures? Because I know that can be a really scary thing for people your age to witness someone having a full seizure.
I think a lot of them were scared the first time that they saw it happen, which I don't blame them. But I made them aware of what they need to do and how to help me. And I think after that, they all got used to it once they saw it enough times.
It's like, oh, here she goes again. Clear the floor.
Yep, exactly.
Oh, that's great. I'm really glad that you have that support network. It will help you greatly. And I want to say that we're running out of time here on Freshwaves, but that we're really, really, really happy that you were able to come on the show, tell your story. And is there anything you'd like to say to the listeners before we wrap it up?
I just want to say thank you for listening to my story, and I hope that this brought more awareness to what brain tumor survivors go through.
Terrific. And again, if people want to go to the website, it's braintumor.ca, and it's the Brain Tumor Foundation. They have all kinds of information and stories and support groups and ways to donate on their website. And we will be bringing you more on this topic later on. And again, Cassandra, I'm just so happy that you were able to come on the show and share your story and your journey with us. We wish you the best of luck. And
thank you.
Yeah, I can't say enough good things about your determination. We're all so proud of you, and we're in awe of all that you've accomplished. Keep it up.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me.
Oh, it's been our pleasure. Well, that's it for Fresh Waves this week. Thanks for tuning in. We hope that everybody goes and has a very terrific day. And don't forget, check out that website, braintumor.ca, and perhaps we'll see you on June 18th downtown at the Brain Tumor Walk. You've been listening to Fresh Waves. I'm your host, Bren Masson. If you'd like to hear other Fresh Waves podcasts or broadcasts, you can go to our YouTube channel, Fresh Waves Radio. If you have a story you'd like to share, then you can contact me at bren@freshwaves.ca. Have a great day, everyone. Thanks for listening, and we'll catch you again next time on Fresh Waves.